Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we would be appreciating the style of Sentai, but we've hit an adorable little snag here. That's right, you're a snag. Astrid has basically parked herself right in front of the camera, and I still got filming to do, but I don't want to disturb her per se, and it has been a while since she's made a cameo, so honey, no. don't go after that. Stop it. So I figured might as well get some adorable kitty on camera while the getting's good. Oh, wait, nope, there she goes. Okay. Alright, got the review set up back. Anyway, yes, Figure Study, where we appreciate the style of Sentai. And today I get to take a look at the Time Force Megazord, although actually this is the DX Time Robo, the Japanese Sentai version, not the US Power Rangers version of the toy. And there are a couple of different ways you can tell. Primarily, from what I've been able to figure out, like the silver around the bottom of the cockpit area for both green and blue, and the silver kind of up here for red in the US version. That just is like one big black piece. And I'm sure there are other differences too, but those are the ones I've been able to figure out going off of picture comparisons. But anyway, yes, while this toy is technically for DX Time Robo, I'm just going to be referring to it as the Time Force Megazord, because really it's the same toy. It should probably come as no surprise to anyone that I absolutely love this set. It's very, very cool. The individual ships all look pretty nice, and I like how each one is slightly different. For example, looking at blue and green together, you can see while they share the same basic shape, there are some key differences, like the fact that blue has the big wide wings and green has the 4 smaller wings. But also the cockpits themselves, they're shaped slightly differently, and the design patterning around them is just ever so slightly different. And that is pretty cool. I like that detail. I also think it's cool how the interior cockpits are also in the color of their respective rangers, or ranger pilots, whatever. And then yellow and pink, also very similar, but also just a little bit different. Like the shape of the front here, pink is obviously a little bit more kind of pinched in the middle there, but it also has these kind of little landing pods there, and this kind of almost scoop-shaped thing in the front. And the cockpit, while they're a very similar shape, pink actually has this like line going down the middle and across, whereas yellow is smooth. And then yellow totally channeling the A-Wing from Star Wars. I like how similar yet different these look. And of course they have the cockpits that are the respective colors, and that's kind of important for the for figuring out where these go later. And as for red, red is the one standout. It's like this weird kind of almost bug shape with like the slick back wings and everything. Not bad looking. I like the kind of the way the front slopes down like that too. And you do have a cockpit in there, although it's not quite as fancy in red as it is with the other 4. It's a neat little kind of fighter looking thing with like the guns on the front and nice little fold-out landing gears and whatnot. And I do like how they all have just slight bits of molded technical detail throughout. If you look at each of them individually, or in pairs, you can see there's just like lots of nice little molded detailing on all of them. And the details are similar, so that they all kind of look cohesive, but at the same time they are a little bit different in places. So yeah, I think the individual vehicle modes are pretty cool, and I like the fact that while green and blue are very similar, and yellow and pink are very similar, they're different enough that they do stand out when they're in their individual vehicle modes. I think that's a really nice touch. And size-wise, just it's a little bit of a challenge to get everything in shot here, but yeah, size-wise, they're also a pretty good size. Each individual vehicle is roughly the size of a Power of the Primes Deluxe, depending on whether you want to go with like length or height or width or whatever. Maybe slightly bigger overall, but you know, kind of in that ballpark. Now comes the fun part, and I'm actually not going to fast forward through the first part of the transformation here because it is very simple, straightforward, and also because I want to talk a little bit about what's going on here. So with pink, it's simply a matter of popping this bit off, and then we're left with this little pod thing. And this entire section just goes off to the side. And for yellow, it's the exact same thing. Just pop it off, separate it, and you're left with another little pod thing, and this little thing that then connects to the pink bit. You've got the clips and whatnot in there. Snap it together, and now you've got this thing, which will just sit off to the side. And this comes back to what I was saying before about how I like how they're similar yet different, because with pink and yellow here, when you've got their little bits taken off, they look almost identical. The only way you can really tell them apart is the cockpits and this little clip dongle thing here. And I think it's really interesting how you've got these components that are practically identical that can also actually look very unique when they're in their individual vehicle modes. That's, again, a really cool little detail. Now, looking at green, both green and blue are also very similar, but again, slightly different. And for this, I'm going to fold up the four wings, and we're left with this little bit. Fold up the landing gear, and then folding up the landing gear with both green and blue is a little bit annoying because you have to like partially untransform it and then put it back together, but it is what it is. And you're just left with this little torpedo looking thing. And blue is almost exactly the same, except you just have the two big wings, so you just fold them up and there you go. And then, of course, fold in the landing gear. And this annoying process, I mean, it's not terrible, it's just a little bit awkward to pull off. But here you can also see that once these two are folded up, they're practically identical as well. And the only way you can really tell them apart is like a quick glance at the wings there. But like even looking at them from the side, you can you can see the hinge here, but at a quick glance, they really don't look very different. And again, that's a very cool feature. I think that's great how you've got two very similar looking components that can be very unique when they're in their individual ship modes. So now that bit's out of the way, I'm going to get this into the combined ship mode, and that I am going to fast forward through. Here we have the combined ship mode, which is a little bit more tricky to get on camera properly because most of its interesting detailing is from the top. There I am. Hello. And I'm not super crazy about this thing underneath, especially because you've got this bright yellow bit hanging out there that's almost as big as the front of the ship and kind of detracts from it. Or not detracts, but distracts from it, rather. But I do think it's really cool how 5 different small ships come together to make one big shuttle thing. And it's not bad. I feel like someone looking at this without knowing may not actually realize that this is 5 separate vehicles that combine into one. Yeah, you've got 5 separate cockpits, but like it's not that immediately noticeable. They come together really well, and the shape that they make, while it's a simple kind of triangle, it still works really well as a big ship. And it's just one of the several reasons why I really enjoy this set. And then, of course, in terms of size, when you've got all 5 of them merged together like this, they are significantly bigger than a Power of the Primes Deluxe. I mean, obviously. They're also significantly heavier, because there's a fair bit of dense plastic and metal in this set. So, the other thing I really, really love about this set is the fact that it's got 2 separate Megazord modes. Or Megazord, you know, whatever they're called in the in the Sentai, because again, this is DX Time Robo. It's not the Time Force Megazord, but again, I'm calling it the Time Force Megazord because who cares? I do really love the fact that this has 2 separate robot modes. It's just a really cool idea. So, well, let's get to that. All right, and here we have whatever this is called. It's the, I believe, the beta mode for the Time Force Megazord. I don't know what it's called for DX Time Robo. And this thing looks pretty ridiculous, but also freaking awesome. I love how different this is. I mean, again, giant shoulders, so of course I love it, but it's not just that. It's like, yeah, it's imbalanced as heck. You've got enormous shoulders and teeny tiny little arms and these super scrawny little legs, and then this kind of potato-shaped body with a pointy head. And it's really goofy looking, and his feet are like these enormous awkward looking boats. But I don't care. It's just neat, and it's different. I know there are goofy robot designs out there, but I don't recall seeing that many designs running with the goofy. Like, this is something that looks dumb and knows it looks dumb and decided, hey, let's push the dumb a little bit further. And again, yeah, imbalanced as heck. And like when you just look at the silhouette, you've got like the three peaks at the top and this big bulky, like from the waist up, it's like this enormous amount of robot bulk like that. And that looks really cool. And then if you look at it from there, it's like, it's just kind of sad. But I can't help but love this thing. It's so different. At least different compared to the stuff I'm used to seeing. Bringing it in closer, you can see, again, very scrawny legs and just these awkwardly enormous shoes. It's so weird, but I just love it. They even have little elbows. Yay. It's so freaking goofy. Now, the thing that bugs me about this guy is obviously not the shape. It's the fact that it's not great about storing the components. Like, you can take the shield here, and it just kind of clips on the back, and that's great. And it doesn't really affect anything because it kind of hides behind his bulk. Then you've got the sword, which also doesn't have a place to go in the individual vehicle modes or the combined ship mode. And he can't hold it because the peg here is too big. I feel like they could have done something so that he could actually hold this, but instead, it just kind of, you have to throw it off to the side. Although the thing that I will do when I have him displayed in this mode is just have one of these things coming out, because you can open the sword up like that. And I just kind of do that. So it's like kind of going over that connection, and it's semi-sheathed. I think that looks okay. It at least gets it out of the way. And speaking of getting things out of the way, because with those shoulders, this guy's unexpectedly tall. But anyway, here we have him with a Power of the Primes Deluxe. And yeah, much, much bigger. But of course, that's not all. So there we've got the Shogun Megazord. And compared to what I like to consider the default Megazord size, it's a little bit on the small side, though with those shoulders, a little bit on the tall side. It just kind of depends on how you want to look at it. And again, I know, awkward as heck, but I kind of really love its awkwardness. It's just, again, different. And I very much like different, especially when it comes to Power Rangers and Sentai stuff. Although, almost forgot. I wanted to bring him in to look at that head, and I actually really like that face sculpt. There's just something very cool about it. It's really nice, deep blue. The silver stands out really nicely against it, and the yellow eyes and red little thing on top also look good. It's just something about the design of that face. Very appealing to me. Got a little bit of a, there I am again, a little bit of a nice kind of molded chest decoration there. I really do like that head sculpt. It's actually my favorite of the two modes. And one other thing to point out that will make a bigger difference when we get to the other robot is the fact that this one is like predominantly blue. There's a lot of little blue details in there, like up in the shoulders and the face and the chest, the fists, the waist, the legs, and it really helps this guy to stand apart from the other robot mode, which we will get into right now. And finally, here we have the much easier to manage and much more agreeable for fitting on the camera alpha mode or red mode. And again, definitely stands apart from the other robot mode. It's one of those things where I feel like someone who's not familiar with this set may not even realize that those two robots are from the same set. The shape, it's much more normal here, but like it's totally different from the other one. And also you've got like predominantly red instead of predominantly blue. So they just look completely different, and I really, really like that detail. It's such a neat effect. And I mean, everybody loves this set. It's been out for a long time, so none of what I'm saying is surprising, but I love the fact that you've got two completely different robot modes, plus the one big combined ship mode, and then like the individual ship modes that, again, they're ultimately very similar components. Like right now, you know, these two look almost identical, these two look almost identical, but when they're folded out and their little bits are attached, they do actually stand apart from each other, and it's just such a neat design for this whole thing. And again, I love how they change everything up. Now everything's, you know, the predominant color here is red instead of blue. It's just such a neat detail. And getting in here, you can see there's like bits of red in the legs, whereas in the other version there was blue, red at the waist, which again, blue in the other one, red at the shoulders, which blue in the other one, and then red chest, red head. And like this entire detail is completely different here too. Because like here, you can see in there, we've got the head of the blue version. And it's, yeah, just a very cool design. Mine unfortunately has this weird little loose flap here, so that's sometimes annoying. I do like the head on this guy. It's not, again, not my favorite of the two, but it does look good. I didn't think I'd be that into this kind of weird recessed face design with like these funky kind of bits covering most of it, but it does look okay. I think it reveals just enough face. I kind of wish that these could like fold all the way around, but I know that's not how it was designed in the show. But I do like this nice gold arrow detail and then a little bit of blue on the forehead. I like how that blue head had a little angular red design on the forehead, and then the red head has a blue circular design on the forehead. It's just a really interesting contrast of what is ultimately kind of a nothing detail. One thing that's kind of weird about this face to me, though, is the fact that it looks like the robot mode is smiling a little bit. Like, it's just got a little bit of a smile. And that's kind of weird. I don't know, I always felt like the Sentai Mecha, Megazords, whatever you want to call them, needed to have, like, expressionless faces. Having that ever so slight smile is just a little bit creepy. But still, this is a very cool robot. Not as cool as the other one in my mind, which is super derpy, but I still like the fact that it's super derpy. But this is a more kind of regular robot design. And it's really just the head that makes this look a little bit different from like regular robot stuff. Whereas the blue version had that really weird and awkward silhouette that did actually work in its favor to just help it stand out. Size-wise, it's still a decent size, but without the enormous shoulders, it comes off as actually being significantly smaller than the blue version or beta version. And that's a little bit weird, because, you know, they're made up of the exact same parts, it's just the parts are kind of switched around and transformed a little differently, but at the same time it does make sense, because when this guy is changed around, you lose about this much of these as they become arms, and then these actually pretty much double in length to become legs, so it does make sense that the blue version would be taller. And I'm just going to try and preemptively move this out, because we're going to bring in the Shogun Megazord for this. And what do you know, I think I eyeballed it pretty good. It actually has the whole Shogun Megazord in frame, didn't even have to move the camera. Yeah, you can see definitely shorter than the Shogun Megazord, but it doesn't really bother me too much. Like, I feel like this guy compacts a little bit more in this mode, which, you know, it does. Not a very big Sentai mech, but even though this is kind of on the small side, not Jojer small, but still kind of on the small side, I can't really fault it for that, because as comparatively small as it might be, this set does a lot. Like, this one, you've got 5 robots that combine into one big robot. This one, you've got 5 ships that combine into one ship that combine into a robot that combine into a different robot. It just does so much. All right, so bring this back in and this down a bit. Get this guy framed a little more properly because there's just a little bit more to go over with him. And that is the shield and sword. Now the sword, not bad looking. I'm not like huge into it, but I kind of wanted to get the sword because everything else turns into a shield and it'd be kind of silly to just have the shield and not also have the sword. It's got these that come out. I guess it's supposed to be like the hands of a clock. This one's really loose for some reason. I don't know. I just like it better like that. And I don't know enough about the show to really care. So that just goes in there. And that works pretty well. And then the shield, bring that in. That just sits in the hand there. And yeah, that kind of goes in there. And that doesn't look bad, though it does kind of annoy me that this is recessed so far. I kind of wish that this would come forward more. I mean, really, I think it'd be cool if this could turn into a weapon, not just a shield, because I always prefer it when the weapon accessories are actually incorporated into the alt modes, but it is what it is. But this doesn't look bad. This actually looks pretty neat. I still prefer the blue version because of its differentness, but this does look cool. You can't really go wrong with a sword and shield combo. The other interesting thing about this is, in this mode, which is the only mode where you can hold the shield and the sword, the robot mode has all of the colors of the different rangers, but in really weird proportions. Like, this thing is super red. Super, super red, with just a little bit of green in the chest, tiny bit of blue in the forehead, and then pink and yellow are relegated to the shield. I mean, granted, the blue version, it's like pretty much just blue with a tiny bit of red. But it's interesting in that it doesn't follow the more traditional route of having all of the different ranger colors represented in not necessarily equal proportions, but at least a little bit more spread throughout the figure. Here, not so much. And again, I really love just how drastically different the two robot modes are from each other. But that is going to do it for the Time Force Megazord / DX Time Robo, or Time Force Megazords, DX Time Robos. I don't really know how you want to break them up, but what do you all think? Have any of you out there had your eyes set on this thing for a while too, and have just been trying to find the right time to grab one? Between the two types of modes, do you have a particular favorite? Like, do you prefer the individual ship modes over the combined ship mode, or vice versa? Does anyone else actually kind of prefer the blue robot mode over the red one? And has anyone else found a better way to deal with that sword in any of the other modes? Because it's a little bit of a shame that this is the only mode that seems to have like a real legitimate place for that sword to go. But anyway, small, tiny, just minuscule disappointments aside, this is a fantastic set. And I mean, everyone who has it seems to say the same thing. So I'm just echoing everyone else's opinion. But if you needed one more opinion to push you over the edge on this set, well, here it is. But that is going to do it. So, if you are so inclined, comment down below. Let me know what you think. I always enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like or subscribe. Any combination of those three would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye times like a factor of 4 in this case.